To find Canada's hippest music scenes, you might typically turn your attention to Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, or Halifax. But if you stop there, you'd miss one of the most interesting musical hotbeds in the country, Iqaluit in Nunavut. Joining us now for a taste of what the Northern Sound is all about, let's welcome Andrew Morrison, who's the lead singer of the Jerrycans and singer-songwriter Riit. And we're delighted to welcome you two way down south here in the capital city of the province of Ontario.
Thanks for having us.
Tell us about how the Jerrycans got started.
We started, well, about 6 or 7 years ago in the current formation of the band, but it started way before that. We all grew up in Iqaluit and sort of loved to go and see the very rare live music that was in the community. And I think in the long, dark winters of the North, the music was always something that was very important to us, just to get our friends together and kind of create a social space. And so the Jerrycans kind of came out of that, and it's changed a lot over the years. We used to sing in English, and now we've changed to singing in Inuktitut, the indigenous language of Nunavut, and also incorporate more traditional art forms like throat singing into some reggae, some country folk stuff. So, and it just kind of took off from there, and so it's about 6 years in the current formation, but a little bit more of a backstory to get to that point.
I got a bunch of follow-ups here. First of all, I mean, Inuktitut is not your first language.
No. So I'm non-Inuk, white boy, as they would say.
So how did you learn that?
So yeah, my partner's family, who's Riit's cousin actually, her father, her late father, and her late grandfather didn't speak English, and there's a whole generation of Inuit up north, the elders who don't speak English and who are unilingual Inuktitut speakers. So I guess you could say to impress the in-laws, I had to learn very quickly. And so, yeah, it was only again in the last 10 years that I've really gained a higher level of fluency. But and music was a really important part of doing that. It was a great way for me to learn another language. So that's how it all came together.
And the Jerrycans, what does that mean?
Well, I don't know. Some people in Canada, we've traveled and toured lots in Canada, and generally the reference is understood, but it's the red gas containers that you can see in lots of rural areas, and they're a big part of life up north, and we actually tried to make a drum set out of them one day, and it was a failure of an idea, but what did stick from that is the band name, and it's kind of turned into a metaphor for, because you use Jerrycans to go out on the land and to go and kind of live that lifestyle. So we putting gasoline in your snowmobile or your boat and stuff. So people really like it because that name brings back all of those memories and all of those, that kind of way of life.
Gotcha. Riit, how long have you been singing, songwriting, performing, etc.?
I've been performing with the Jerrycans for about 3 years now, but I started my solo project around this time last year.
Is the music that you sing, I mean, I would presume that if you grew up somewhere in Toronto or Ottawa, your influences, the kinds of themes that you wanted to explore would presumably be different if you grew up in Iqaluit. Yeah. Isn't that true?
Yeah.
So what's different about what you bring to the musical scene?
There's throat singing in my songs, and also
some people aren't going to know what throat singing is. Do you want to describe that? Do you want to do some of that?
I'll just explain it. It's just, okay. It's traditional throat singing between two women, usually, and it's a competition. And how it started back in the day was, it was to entertain each other while the men were out hunting for months at a time or weeks at a time, and usually it's an imitation of the environment, like the river or the wind. And
would you call it, in a way, the rap of the North? there's that, I mean, when I heard it, I thought there's that kind of aspect to it. You know, one rapper goes after another, and they compete, and you know, it's not always in a language that other people would understand. You know, it sometimes sounds, and anyway, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, but that's a cool way to think about
it. That works
for you?
Yeah. That works for you. Okay. Do you? I mean, is there enough infrastructure in the North to record your own stuff there?
No, that's one of the big challenges that we face, one of the number of challenges that we face. And I think that when we think about what's happening now in Iqaluit, there's lots of limitations, but I think that breeds some very interesting creativity. There's not a full-time studio per se. There's a few people that have home setups, but it's not on the same scale that you would find in Toronto or Montreal by any means. But it's something that we're working towards, and I think that in terms of physical infrastructure, that's one challenge, but there's also lots of challenges in terms of just industry, people helping with management or publicity or booking agents. Those are all very new ideas of how to do things in the music world up north, and that's something that we've learned as the Jerrycans coming down to Toronto and networking with some of those people. We had no idea what any of these, what it took to build a team to help share your music, and that's part of what we're bringing back to Nunavut to kind of help, because it's been very successful for us, and we think that there's many talented young artists like Riit and a list of many more that have lots of very important things to say about life in Canada and sort of in history of Canada. And
so let me ask you the same question then. What musical themes or ideas do you like to explore through your music that might be different from what some kid playing in a garage band in Scarborough would think of?
And again, when we switched to singing in Inuktitut, something that was natural with that transition was looking to our community for inspiration and for song theme ideas. So we talk a lot about youth mental health issues, and that is a challenge up north, but also language, also pressures of English on young people up north, and colonization is a big thing that we talk about in lots of different ways. And it sounds very negative when we're saying it right now, but we sing about it in a very, we encourage young people to be proud of who they are, and because I think there's lots of pressure on young people up north to speak English, to live a southern life, and everything cool is always coming from Toronto and Montreal, and we try and challenge that a lot because we think that there's lots of very cool stuff happening in Iqaluit and Nunavut that young people should be proud of.
Now, do you ever get in any trouble as the self-described white boy of the group, singing about issues that maybe ought to come out of the mouth of an Indigenous person?
Yeah, I think that that's been a conversation that we've had, and we've been asked about that and challenged on that on a number of occasions, and I think that we're aware of it, and our response is that I grew up in Iqaluit, and I'm not ever making any claim of indigeneity at all. We're very clear with my being a white boy. I love that this is the term we're using, but I think that we live in Iqaluit and we contribute to Iqaluit, and I think that people in Nunavut are proud of what we're doing to create a market for Inuktitut music, not just in Nunavut, but in Canada and across the world. And I think when you're engaged in something like that, you have a responsibility. If you're benefiting from certain aspects of a community like singing in Inuktitut and that stuff, you have to be a part of the community and give back and contribute. And we're working with lots of young people on lots of language initiatives. And we just released a children's book in Inuktitut and all of these different things. So cultural appropriation is a very serious issue. And I think being aware of all of the pitfalls of that is really important, and we try to take responsibility for that and continue to be a part of Iqaluit. It would be different if we moved to Toronto and just benefited from that, but I think that the other side of that, we have to engage with the community and give back, and that's what we're trying to do anyway.
Riit, you told the Globe and Mail a little while ago that in the last few years, a lot of Inuit have been using music to save the language. What do you mean by that?
For me, like with my music, like I guess we tried to make it more modern, like more of like pop music, because a lot of young people back home listen to a lot of pop music, like Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, and I thought it would just be cool to make pop music in Inuktitut and put some throat singing in there to make it more interesting for the young people.
Do you feel like the language is in danger of disappearing?
In a lot of the communities in Nunavut, yeah. But once, like in my community, Pangnirtung, which is a town with 1,400 people, Inuktitut is very strong there, but once you go more western Nunavut, that's where like Inuktitut is becoming lost.
You can speak it?
Yeah.
Fluently?
My mother tongue, yeah.
Your mother tongue?
Yeah.
Of course you can. Do most of your friends, are they able to speak it as well?
Back home, yes, but like I spend a lot of my time in Riit, which is where Andrew is from, and majority of my friends are there, and we don't usually speak in Inuktitut, which is unfortunate. But
You
when
speak
I
English
do,
then?
yeah, when I do go home, then that's the only language that I speak.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between the way you do your music and, say, the way that elders would sing?
Yeah.
Tell me.
Like, I don't think elders would sing pop music usually. Yeah. Yeah. I
So
think
what's the
that's
difference?
Traditional Inuktitut music are more like pisiks, which are, what would you?
Storied songs,
yeah.
sometimes very abstract. But yeah, it's just there's similarities for sure, though, when you think
Yeah.
about the spirit of the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just thinking of all these creative ideas we could do now with these elder songs and putting a hip hop beat behind them or something.
Well, I do wonder what the elders think of your style of music.
I've never actually gotten any feedback from the elders, but it would be cool to get some feedback from them.
Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned Lady Gaga a second ago.
Yeah.
And one of her biggest hits in the last few years came when she sang with Tony Bennett, who's 91 years old. So I'm giving you guys this idea for free.
Yeah, thank you.
You and the elders getting down, doing your thing. There's something there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I think that something that we've noticed, and for sure with Riit and the Jerrycans, I think that the elders for sure are happy to see young people dedicating themselves to Inuktitut music. And so, and I don't think it's necessarily overt compliments, but I know that there's older people that are very happy to see young people being very proud. And something too, I think that for both of our music that we've heard is that a lot of young people, again, might be looking to Taylor Swift and Drake and Justin Bieber, but then they switch the song to Riit or Jerrycans or Northern Haze, and it's a similar vibe, but it's in Inuktitut. So it gives them the idea that they can sing in Inuktitut and they can be proud to do that. And that's something that I've heard, at least for response to the Jerrycans, that older people are very happy to see that. And even if we're doing more contemporary stuff with throat singing or traditional things, I think that just seeing that young people are proud of the language and kind of proud of things that are grown in Nunavut is something that we definitely hear from people back home.
So this is not just a business for you, you're nation building at the same time in some respects.
Yeah, I think that just the idea of coming from a town of 1,400 people in Panaktu and then having your song heard all over Canada, having it heard in Germany, having it heard in Australia, like it gives you shivers a little bit just because those songs, for so long, because of all of these pressures, there was a lot of people that wanted Inuktitut to disappear and wanted colonization was a very challenging history. And so when young people are standing up and singing in Inuktitut and being proud of who they are, it's a very powerful moment. And on a global scale, that's what we're aiming for, and we're really trying hard to do that.
Have you heard one of your songs on the radio?
Oh, yeah.
You have heard a lot. See, be talking to CBC radio here, probably, right?
Yeah, but in Australia as well, in Germany.
Okay.
And
what's that like?
It's the strangest experience you can ever imagine, because when I hear it, I just hear the day before I had a cold, or I hear the mistake that I made, or the different take I wanted to do. But again, to me, we're very proud of hearing Inuktitut on national radio. It's a very cool statement because we're from towns that are super small, and we would play in our garage with the 100-kilometer-an-hour wind blizzard going outside, and then you make this song, and it kind of just goes across the world, and it's just something that we would never imagine. And Nunavut, I don't know if you've been there, but it's a very different place, a very unique place in Canada, and we're really wanting people to know about it. And there's lots of misconceptions about the place, and we want to correct those and help people understand that it's a modern, very beautiful place.
That needs a university.
That needs a university,
Doesn't
absolutely.
have one yet. Needs one. Have you heard yourself on the radio?
I have.
What was that like?
Pretty same, like insane. Just like, yeah. Just, I never thought that this little northern girl from a 1,400 population town would end up on CBC radio too.
Yeah. Did you know when the song was on the radio that it was coming on?
Yeah.
So you had a heads up that it was happening. And is it the kind of thing where you tell everybody, you know, either in the house or the restaurant or wherever you are, shh, I'm on. Is that what happens?
No.
They were quiet already? I mean, were you with a group of people at the time?
No, alone.
You were alone?
Yeah. I mean, like, when they do give you a heads up, it's like 25 minutes before the song comes on, and you try to post it on social media to let people know.
Because Riit's song was actually the first Inuktitut language song to debut on CBC Radio too, so it was a very cool moment for us.
Okay, Riit, we're going to play a little of your music here, okay?
Sure.
This is Imiktak? What is that? What does that word mean?
It means fetching water. So the song is a traditional children's song that I grew up singing, and now I sing it to my little nieces back home, and I guess one day I was just singing it to Vivi, which is Andrew's daughter, and we thought it was a cool idea to do like a modern style of it. And now it's like the catchiest song that'll be stuck in your head for 2 days.
Okay, so here's Riit with Vivi. This is Imiktak. Sheldon, roll it. That is fabulous. What a beautiful sound.
Thank you.
That is an absolutely beautiful sound. Huh. What's the gist of the song?
It's actually kind of like the English. The English translation is a bit weird. Like, it's not the same as how you would take it if you understand and hear it in Inuktitut, but it's getting fresh water from the river is actually a way to show respect for the elders or people who are older. So, and the song just, I guess it came from a little girl or boy that didn't really want to go and fetch water. So it means like if I was told to go and fetch water, even if I was scolded, I would want to leave like down there. So it's a weird translation from Inuktitut to English, but that's, yeah.
Gotcha. Should we play some of the Jerrycans?
Sure.
Just to be fair?
Yeah.
I guess just to you?
I like the other song better.
Well, tough. We're going to play some of your stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the Jerrycans, and this is a cover we're going to play here, Ahead by a Century. This is Tragically Hip, so let's play that. Sheldon, roll away. Nice.
There you go. There you have it.
Everything in culture is a decision, right? You got to make decisions about a million different things. So decision number one, obviously, is to choose to cover a very well-known Canadian band. So why that decision?
It was an interesting process, actually, because we had watched the Hips' last concert, and Gord made reference to the North, and we thought that was it was big news up north. It went Nunavut viral, as we say up there, because people were honored to be a part of that conversation, and we decided that we wanted to kind of continue that conversation. And as the North, a band in the North, we wanted to kind of propel that a little bit. And we thought one way of doing that was to kind of do a cover of a hip song in Inuktitut, and it was a very interesting process to be able to do that. Again, like Riit said, with the translating. Some terms are just very challenging to translate back and forth, so it was a very long process, but we were very happy to do it, and the result we were very happy with too.
Can you guys, I mean, we noticed that from both of those excerpts that we played, we're on a freeze frame. Is it possible to do videos with your work?
Yeah, it is, and we talk a bit about the challenges of being up north, but one of them is the internet. The internet is about 15 years behind anywhere else in Canada, and it's very limiting it limits our creative options. And we do videos, but sometimes the videos are mostly viewed by people in the South, and I think collectively as Northern artists, we want to create art that's accessible to Northerners, and so because it was so important for our development to have art that was very specifically accessible to us. So music videos would be good, but half of our territory wouldn't be able to watch it. So sometimes we have to make decisions based on that.
Would you even have the infrastructure in the north to be able to shoot a video properly?
Yeah, there would be. There's people that we have some friends of ours that we work with lots that have an Inuktitut like comedy TV show that we work with quite often to do video. But again, it comes down to it's a lot of money and it's a lot of resources. But I think again we're just starting. We're learning as we go, and the bigger the scope of our activities get, the more we'll be involved in that kind of stuff. So maybe you'll come and be in a music video with us. Riit's next single.
Sign me up, man. Sign me up. I'm just trying to think, for any artist, even down in the South, trying to get signed by a record label. I mean, that's tough enough. How about if you're from thousands of kilometers north of here? How do you get signed by a record label?
We don't know. That's why we had to start our own.
You started your own.
Yeah, it was so challenging for us because of Inuktitut. And I know that both of the songs we just sampled, there you can be familiar with the Head by Century, and Imirta is catchy, but it's really hard to understand what the words are. And that's the response that we got from a lot of record labels when we would pitch to them in our Jerrycans experience. So,
and your label's called Akuluk Music? Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Does it mean anything?
What's Akuluk?
Akuluk is like an endearment that we use to show affection, usually, or it's like a way of saying I love you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
In Inuktitut?
In Inuktitut, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we decided on that name because we say it to each other. We say it's not as serious as I love you, but it's that we say it to older people, we say it to younger people, to cousins, to family, to friends, and Akuluk Music has been the culmination of a super long journey for us, and we're so happy at the stage we are now because there's so much attention being put on Northern music now, and the label gets emails every day from all over the world trying to license music, trying to get the stories of the musicians, and it was just a way to create some sort of organization to help share Nunavut music, and it's kind of a chaotic rolling down the hill, but we're getting some cool things done for sure.
When you think about your dreams in the music business, what do you want to be?
I think it's like happening, like hearing Inuktitut music all over Canada. I mean, and more young Inuk artists going out there and going for it. And I think it's happening.
Do you ever say to yourself, though, I want to be the next Susan Aglukark or something like that?
Yeah. I'm just really going with the flow.
Going with the flow.
Yeah.
How about for you?
I agree. When we had our last album release, we had 3 amazing young bands singing their hearts out in Inuktitut. And if the Jerrycans experience was any indication of trying to do that outside of Nunavut, we've heard no, we've heard we're sorry, we don't understand what you're saying. We've had roadblock after roadblock put in front of us to share our music, and we've just continued to be passionate about Inuktitut. But my dream is absolutely that every young person in Nunavut to be inspired to sing in Inuktitut, to relearn Inuktitut if they don't know it, and know that people will listen all over the world, and people will listen and be so engaged in your story, and for young people to be proud of that and to not ever have to modify who they are to find success in the music world and in life. So that would be my dream for sure.
Those are great dreams. Go make them happen. Well, you are. So good for you.
Thank you.
Riit, lovely to have you on TVO tonight. Andrew Morrison from the Jerrycans, great to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.